maybe ironic about it, Trump actually gets a benefit by being sentenced tomorrow, which is once that sentencing is over, as of tomorrow morning, then he can take his full appeals. He can go up the New York Courts of Appeals. He can go maybe to the U.S. Supreme Court and say the charge against me was unconstitutional, which I think it may be. He can say that the jury was not properly instructed. But if he had gotten his way, if he was not sentenced tomorrow, he would not have been able to appeal. That would have been it. So this sentence would have sort of died in netherworld.
Well, and part of their argument had been that it was going to be too tough for him to get sentenced tomorrow, that he couldn't show up to the sentencing in New York. The justices made a point, the five who ruled that this could happen, and said that it was relatively insubstantial in light of what the court is saying that they're going to do, which is to impose that sentence of unconditional discharge. And it's a brief virtual hearing. He doesn't have to be there in person tomorrow.
So this was a smart move by Judge Merchan, because he said last week, I'm going to sentence you to essentially nothing, and you can do it by Zoom. If Merchan had not done that, if he just said, appear for sentencing Friday, it'll be like any other sentencing. You don't know what you're going to get until I tell you. That might have changed the Supreme Court's calculus, because Trump's argument was, I could be subject to what we call irreparable harm. And if Trump was able to say, I don't know, maybe this guy's going to try to lock me up. Maybe he's going to impose some serious penalty. Maybe I don't have the time as president-elect to travel to New York and sit in a courtroom and go through security. Instead, Merchan absolutely minimized that.
Okay, so he appears virtually via, I'll call it Zoom. I don't even know what it is for the court system. When you get sentenced, you have an option to say something, right?
You just hit on what the biggest point is going to be to watch for tomorrow. Any defendant at sentencing absolutely has a right to speak. Almost always they do. So Trump might say, I have nothing to say, Your Honor, or he might give us a rant. I mean, I would bet on that because, look, he's got nothing to lose. He knows he's getting sentenced to nothing. So
even
watch
if he speaks before the sentencing and goes off on the judge, which he does and did tonight, that won't change how Merchan sentences him?
Merchan left himself a tiny bit of wiggle room, right? He didn't say, I promise I will sentence you. He said, I intend to sentence you. But I think it would take an awfully lot to push Merchan from sentence you to unconditional discharge to lashing out with a sentence.